So next, I've just filmed a pretty intense long video, so this is a more fun one and it'll be more brief. You won't know because you won't know what video I've just filmed. I hate this weather. I hate it with all my passion. It doesn't look as bad here because it's all sheltered, but this snow is everywhere. It's just going to be winter florals. Florals are probably my favourite sort of fragrance category, if you like. I think everybody will know that who watches me. Flowers are nature's gift to us, aren't they, really? They are nature's perfume. They just give us all this smell, all this beautiful scenery. You know, I hate mentioning this. Traditionally, flowers were in all perfume, which was for everyone. And even if you look at the 80s, they were flower-packed fragrances marketed to men and women. So it's, if you're scared of flowers, sort yourself out. Yeah, these are my favourite winter florals. Florals that not necessarily make me think of winter, but colder kind of florals, if you like. First up is a nice cosy one, and that's from Amouage. This is the reformulated version. I don't know what the new one's like in the strange bottle, the stonish one. This is the one that was in the kind of whitish creamy bottle. I love Tuberose. It's weird it's called Love Tuberose because to me it's more lily, actual lily, and there's a lily of the valley kind of feel towards the end of it. It's got that spice of the lily and that creaminess of the petals, which obviously mixes with the tuberose very nicely. The tuberose is there and it is prominent, but it's the lovely spice of the lily that stands out. And this is because it's got like is it chantilly cream listed note, so it's got this heavy creaminess that does smell like cream. It's not like an overly synthetic modern day gourmand kind of thing. It's not choking or what have you, and that mixes together, it goes quite ice creamy, but what balances it is that spice from the lily and the sweetness from the florals, the tuberose as well. And then as it moves further and further into the dry down, I think there might be a touch of incense, but there's also a fresher, greener feel, which could be the tuberose, but I get the fresher, greener kind of creamy thing going with it. There's a lily of the valley that sneakily in there. It's a beautiful fragrance. If you're a gourmand struggler, you might not like it. I'm a gourmand struggler and I love it, but like I say, it's because of the florals. This is a beautiful fragrance. One of their last greats. So that's Love Tuberose from Amouage. Next is Gris Dior from Dior. This is one I mentioned all through the year and stuff, and I think it fits everything, but to me it's roses by a river. It's got this kind of musky, earthy rose powder. There is a kind of rosiness there, but it's more rose powder and not just powder, tickly powder, like grainy powder, like obviously the patchouli. There's some deers over there which you can't see, but it's so kind of delicately done and refreshing, and it is a cool one. That's why it works all year round. Obviously in the winter you get in this kind of scene of roses with snow on them and the cold crisp water. In other seasons it slightly changes, but it's just this kind of beautiful, fresh, effervescent, grainy, earthy rose, but a sweet rose, and it's magnificent. I think, I'm preaching to the choir here. Everyone will have smelled Gris Dior, I think, and it's a legend for a reason. I don't know what new formulations are like. I really genuinely fear for Dior. It's going to go down the same path as Guerlain, isn't it? And these conglomerates, let's face it, they only bought it for the name. They could not give a chuff about what's in the bottles, as long as it's cheap. But yeah, that's Gris Dior from Dior. Next is from Frederic Malle, and it's Portrait of a Lady. This is one I think we all again know. It's very famous, and to me it's quite similar to Gris Dior. It doesn't smell the same, but the same kind of breakdown and notes. It's patchouli and rose predominantly. But why this is a winter one to me is I don't get any warmth from this one at all. I don't get any kind of joy or good feelings. It's a solitary rose on one of these hills at the top, all by itself, slowly starting to bow down with the weight of the snow and to wither and die. And that's what it is. And that is what I like about it the most. It's an emo rose. It's giving itself to the elements. I've just had enough. But it was once like a proud princess rose or whatever. But now it's coming to the end of it, and the earthiness in it gives this really kind of cool, crisp, you move into the cold seasons feeling with it. And the rose itself isn't overly sweet or anything. It is more of a kind of sharp, like one of them orangey red roses. And I think it's just perfect for this time of year. Don't need to waffle on. That's a portrait of a lady from Frederic Malle. Next is from Fusciuni, and it's called Viole Nere. Now this is influenced by, not this time of year, a bit further on, and that's this kind of idea of the last snows melting, not the first snows covering everywhere and freezing us to death, but it is about that kind of rebirth from spring. Nature's, it's started to fight back and life is returning, and it's about the violet flower slowly coming through, and it starts off really kind of oracey and cold and dry, like winter, and then it warms up, and the violet adds this sweetness to it. And as it keeps going, as the weather gets warmer and all the snow and ice subsides, it becomes sweeter. Hang on. Yep, it becomes sweeter and warmer and more kind of spring-like, and how you'd recognise a violet. It's not particularly powdery actually. The powderiness is a little touch from a kind of clay orris, and I think there might be mimosa or something in it, giving it a bit of bright sunshine and that kind of boozy feel. It's a magnificent fragrance. I think Mio wrote I don't know if Mio's not his real name, wrote a poem, and it kind of describes it perfectly. So for a winter floral, it's perfect, because it is that end of winter and the flowers and the joy and life coming through again. So that's Viole Nere. Next is a strange one. Well, it's Moonlight in Heaven, and the reason I picked this as a kind of wintry one, from Kilian by the way, is because it is quite cool actually. It's mango, rice, grapefruit and vetiver mainly. Now the mango adds a bit of that kind of tropical kind of feel to it, and the rice a kind of dry graininess, and the coconut is a very savoury kind of coconut. And the reason I think of winter is because again it's the dark skies, and it's kind of the leftover sweet smells from the day, and that's very much winter, isn't it? As you move into winter, you get the leftover smells before everything's dead, of the green and the autumn berries and the autumn flowers and things like that. And I think this just takes me there. It's a very still fragrance. You very much feel everything is peaceful and slow and lovely. So that's, oh, look at this, about to get run over. Yes, as I say, peaceful and still, and then you get some big truck trundling down the road, splashing you, so you're all muddy. But yes, it's a gorgeous one. So that's Moonlight in Heaven from Kilian. Next is from Jusbox, and it's called Visionary Eye. It's kind of based around David Bowie, obviously. Walk around here in the summer and it's definitely not the same, is it? But yeah, it's, what I'd say the best way to describe it is it's kind of similar to Reflection Man. It's, and obviously Malle. It's not quite, it goes in its own direction, but it's got that this jasmine predominantly. There's a dry, the orris in this is a lot drier and powdery and less sweet than that, and I think it's sage, that might be the aromatic note going through it, not lavender, but that adds that bright kind of loveliness to it. It's what you call a kind of crisp white shirt fragrance, but this is all about the orris and the iris. There is a kind, these are really tricky when we talk about this. Orris is the root, and it's a dry, really potato-y kind of clay-like thing to me. And iris is more of a fancy note that's got more to do with violet, hasn't it? Which is a kind of more of a floral sweet smell that you associate with makeup and stuff. And it's kind of got them both there, and it's just this crisp, clean, beautiful fragrance that's predominantly about the iris and orris. So yeah, that's a Visionary Eye from Jusbox. Next is a very famous floral, Chanel No. 5, and the reason I put this one in here again is because it's a cooler one. I'm still going to talk about the EDP, not the EDT, but it's obviously predominantly the ylang ylang and the lily of the valley are your main florals in it. There are other things in there. Don't really pick out the rose, perhaps a bit of the petaliness or the powderiness that's in there. But the aldehydes add this life, this vibrance, this chill to it. Now they are more on the kind of soapy side of it, but they have a texture that, you know, that grainy texture that aldehydes have, that kind of almost tickle your nose. Obviously mixed again with the Chanel musk in there, and it's just really beautiful. Again, I find when I wear this in the winter, it is more of a cooler, crisper one. Maybe because obviously the air's cold, my skin's cold, so that ylang ylang and that brightness in there and the sweetness doesn't push out as much. It's more predominantly about the cooler notes, and the iris might just show up a little bit more in it as well when it's cooler, which I don't really get when it's warm. So yeah, that's Chanel No. 5 from Chanel. Next is from Guerlain, and that's Insolence. This again is quite obvious. It's powdery and it's violety. It's got the sweetness of the berries running through it. It's musky. It's an enveloping one. It's really beautiful, isn't it? But again, the colour of this to me is what makes it wintry. The violet, that kind of, you do get more violet, not now, but you get more violet skies, don't you? And there's something again about violet flowers. We don't get them in this country, but I don't know, I imagine them at the beginning of spring. Well, from Viole, Nere, they're at the beginning of spring, so there's that spring winter kind of borderland there. And obviously spring here, it nowadays is very brief. Our winter pushes in, but the flowers do start to sprout through the constant frosting and stuff, and it's just really lovely. And it's also again more in the cold, it gets a little bit darker. The violet has more of a darker syrupiness with the powderiness of it all. And yes, it smells like Parma violet sweets. Sweets are always very comforting in the winter as well. So that's Insolence from Guerlain. Next is one from One Way Bridge, and it's called Dynasty. And this one, it does have florals in it. Off the top of my head I couldn't tell you what they are. Jasmine's definitely one of them. And there's the kind of sweeter powdery florals and some New Zealand florals, which again is why perhaps they haven't stuck in my head. And this beautiful white muskiness and muskiness about it. But the reason this is a winter one, it being like a very musky floral, is because it smells of freshly laundered sheets on the line outside, and you get that kind of feeling in the air on a hot day. But don't forget, these sheets are then brought inside, and now in the winter obviously we're snuggled under our sheets a little bit more, and that kind of freshly washed duvet sheet, a duvet cover, and the smell of your bed when it's really cold and you get in it and it's freezing, your hot water bottle hasn't quite heated it up, that kind of cozy feeling of pulling the duvet over your face, and that warmth, and that, again, these, because I, you know, from the 80s, mum did the washing then, so it kind of reminds you of a hug from your mum and stuff, and it's just cozy and enveloping and really nostalgic, and again works in the winter because of that feeling of being wrapped in your fresh bedclothes and bed linen and stuff. So yeah, that's Dynasty from One Way Bridge. And finally is one from Mabelle and Rama called Lunar Dust. Now, this is a predominantly orris-y iris, it's more of a molecular orris iris kind of feeling, and cedarwood. Now it's obvious what it's supposed to represent, but to me, of course, it takes me to this kind of cold, powdery kind of snow, and it is what it makes you think of. The orris iris is how would you describe it? It's vibrant and it's alive because again it pushes more down that molecular thing. It's very just alive, and the snow is very much alive now. It's not long fallen over the last couple of days, and it's starting to melt and that, and it gives this kind of smell of this kind of greyish, whitish, wonderful kind of scenery. You know, it's kind of self-explanatory, isn't it? The cedar in it adds a bit of warmth and that kind of woodiness to it. It is, I mean, again, it's not something that's massively groundbreaking in terms of you've never smelt it before, but I've never quite smelt anything like this before. It's all done very well, and that kind of grainy orris and powderiness, and it just makes me think of snow as well as maybe the moon is made of snow, who knows. But yeah, that's Lunar Dust from Mabelle and Rama. So yeah, this was just a brief one, wasn't it? You know how it goes. There was 9, 10 or 11, I don't know, I didn't count them. And they're just flowers and florals that kind of make you think of winter. Now orris featured a lot in there, and violet. Again, is it the powderiness? Is it the texture? Is it the coolness of these flowers maybe? It's interesting. I mean, I hadn't thought about that until the end of it. So what about you? What are your kind of favourite winter florals? Florals that take you to winter, make you feel this cool crispness of the air and all of that, etc. I'm not going to waffle on. It was a video. Alright folks, thanks, bye.